Back. So I think the next step would be to kind of work with the module right here. We need to start using Firebase in our system. Now, there's a lot of things you can consider. You could start making a service module instead of the actual just setting things up directly in the app module, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now. So we're going to add this to the app module to kind of initialize our Firebase app inside Angular. So let's just try and copy this ng module right here, and I'll just jump back to my code, find my app module, and I'll just put it directly into the app module. Again, I've kind of, by doing this in my code, I'm binding myself a little bit to actually using AngularFire directly inside this module, but it's not something I can change later if I want to, so it's not a big thing. So here we have the environment. I'll just kind of route to that guy by importing the environment. Don't take the prod one, because then you're too specific. I just want to use the environment one, and then the Angular CLI will figure out if it's production. It'll take the .prod, stuff like that. I'll try and show you that later as we move forward. So now we have this new setup right here. We have the environment kind of pointing just to this. This is not magic. This is just my Firebase information right here that we're pointing to, and we're just putting that inside the creation or initialization of this Firebase module right here. So that's all we had to do. Now we have Firebase set up. We need one more thing, because I want to start using a specific module called Firestore, right? So I also need to kind of add the Firestore module into my application. So we'll just try and add that in here like you see right here. So let's just try and jump into our code and add that. And again, I'm adding it directly inside the core module. Again, there might be a consideration there to put it into another module to kind of spit up my code a bit better. But let's just keep it like this for now. I'll live with this and we'll look into it later. Now we have a full setup. We can actually start using Firestore. Now comes the next part, which is jumping into the component and start using Firestore right here. Or is that a good idea? Let's just try and put it in here. Private db, and I can just do it like this, and I'll write I want this to be a Firestore Firestore setup right here. It's called AngularFirestore. There we go. And now we are actually ready to run. Now I did get this information. If you just scroll down, you can see I can put it directly into my app component. So it is by their example right here, how to use it. I could put it right here, and that would be perfect, right? I'm already up and running. I can start doing stuff like adding things to Firebase or whatever I want. But is that a good idea? In my mind, it's a bad idea, because we want to wrap this as a minimum inside a service. Because now I've bound my components to Firestore as well. So that pretty much means that if I later on want to use a .NET backend instead, I'll have to change it in all my components instead of putting this into a service, so I only have to change my services. So I don't want to do this. Let's just get this out of the way again. I don't want to go directly into Firestore inside my components. Instead, I want a service. Okay, how do we do a service? So let's start out by jumping into our style guide again. Let's try and find the overall structural guidelines and see where we should put services. And it seems we should put them inside the shared folder under the product. That's where we have a service right here called hero service in this case. I'm going to make one called product service, right? But how do I make a service? Well, let's jump to something else. The CLI commands over here to kind of explain how you can make services. So I'll scroll down and I'll have something called generate right here. This is a command, ng generate. With that command, I can actually create different things. For instance, I can create services. So here you'll see all the things I can create: classes, components, directives, guards if you want to, interfaces, and luckily I can also generate services. We did already do modules. Let's try and see how we can do a service. So to generate a service, I can write ng g for generate and service. Let's try and do that. Ng generate service. Now where do I want the service? I want the service to be inside products / shared, and I want the service to be called product. That should be all I have to write. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it generates two files for me inside that folder. So if I open this folder right now, on the shared you'll see a product service TS file right here and a product service spec file, which is the test file. And again, we'll dive into testing later as well. So now we have the product file available right here. Notice it's a service because it's injectable, pretty much meaning that I can dependency inject it, just like I showed you a second ago right here. You can do stuff like this to just inject the service into your constructor in different components. But let's just undo that again, because I don't want that right now. There we go. And the next thing, if we go back to the service, you'll notice that when I inject this, I'm going to inject it in the root. Now this is something to do with modules, and modules having Oh, this is a tough one to explain right now. Maybe I should skip it. But think of it this way. We need to kind of inject this in root so that this service can be used across of all our modules, right? Even the lazy loading modules can still use this service if we want to use it in other modules. So you just need this provided in root if you want to be able to use it across even lazy loading modules, or else you'll start getting errors. So I just wanted to add that as well. Now we have our service available, and here that's where I want to start using Firebase. Now I could go even further out and say I want to be even more generic so that I can easily switch Firebase out, but let's just keep it like this and make this service. So this is where I kind of want to add my DB for Firebase or Firestore. So let's just write AngularFirestore, AngularFire. Notice you can use camel casing right here. If you just write capitalized A, capitalized F, it'll try and find AngularFirestore like this. There we go. I'll add this right here. I'll save this. Gajumi, we're ready to start using Firestore in the next lesson to start actually working with storing some products. That's it for this lesson. See you next time. Have fun.